Joliet, Illinois, on my way down to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Man, there's all kind of windmills out through here. I was talking last night with Randy, this owner-operator that I know. He's not independent, doesn't run under his own authority. He's leased on with, I forget who it is, but he's leased on with a national carrier, and they book his loads for him and such. And he was telling me about this one load he's got that picks up a preloaded trailer of theirs, and it has 5 stops. And it's really not a bad run. It's averaging out at over $3 a mile, and the 5 stops are really nothing. It's going to 5 different distribution centers, and it's a 35,000 pound load. It's really not a bad run at all. But anyway, he figured his mileage from where he picked up the trailer to the first stop, and then from the first stop to the second, from the second to the third to the fourth, and yada yada yada. And he told me, he said, they shorted me on the mileage by about 23 miles. What do you think I ought to do? Now, the rate they gave him for the miles they gave him, it still averages out to over $3.20 a mile. And that's not too shabby at all, especially in today's market. I told him, I said, well, you can question them on it and, try to get that last little bit, or you can take that amount, the $3.20 something a mile, and take that extra mileage that they shorted you, and just write that amount off on your taxes as a loss, a bad debt, because you're driving the miles, and they quoted you so many miles on the load, but the load was actually more than that, about 23 miles more, I think it was. And you're entitled to that money, so you can either go back to the carrier and say, listen, you shorted me on the miles, you said it was this, and it was actually this. And if you go from where he picked up the trailer to the very last stop and don't even count all those stops in between, well, then they're over on the mileage. But if you figure each stop individually, he came up like, I believe it was 23 miles short. And I would just leave it alone. Take that 23 miles at $3.20 a mile or whatever it figured out to, and I would just write that off on my taxes as bad debt, because technically you're owed the money and you're taking it at the same rate that everything paid. So I would just write it off on my taxes. I think that's the cleanest and easiest way to do it, and you're still going to benefit the same either way you go. However, one added benefit to writing it off on your taxes is, you're preserving that relationship with that carrier and that dispatcher. It could work to your favor in the future, but to each his own. That's just what I would do. There's everything in this industry, whether you're running, fully independent with your own truck and trailer, and you're running the spot market, getting your own loads, negotiating your own rates, whether you're doing that or whether you're leased on with another carrier and running under their authority and letting them, get your loads for you. And I would suggest, number one, do that with a carrier that's going to pay you a percentage rather than mileage. I think that one that Randy's with, I think they're like 70, 72, 73%, something like that. So, that's not bad. You get that plus the fuel surcharge, and he only gets about, I could be wrong, I want to say it's about like 83 or 85% of the fuel surcharge, which I questioned him on that to begin with, because I thought, well, that ain't right, but he's pulling a reefer, and the carrier provides the fuel for the reefer, so they're keeping the balance on the fuel surcharge. That makes sense. That's fair. So he's getting 80 plus percent, 80, 85, somewhere around. It's less than 90%, but more than 80. And that's for the truck, and they keep the rest for the fuel for the trailer. But if you're running fully independent, you're going to be hurting right now. If you're used to getting the $5 and $6 a mile freight that we could get a couple of years ago, and it's probably a shock to your system to take loads for $2 a mile or $2.50 a mile or something. I get it, but you can sit and make nothing. You can take that and make something. And if you're running independent, I would strongly encourage you to begin, whenever you're at a shipper picking up a load, go in there and do a sales call while you're there and try to build that relationship where you can begin building your own regular dedicated run. Like you pick up somewhere close to your house, and let's say you go to somewhere that's 500 miles away, you pick up another load there, you deliver, pick up another load there, and it's going to go, say, 300 miles away from the first place, and then when you get there, you're going to drop and pick up another load that's going to take you right back to where you started, close to your house. And you can do that, make that run a couple of times a week, and make pretty good money. So while you're at the shipper, while you're at the receiver, try and do a sales call if you're interested in doing anything like that. Because if you can work directly with that shipper and you're not having to go through that broker, well, then the shipper can move those loads for less money, and you can move them for more money because that broker, that third party, is not getting paid. He's left out of the loop. So it's strictly between you and the shipper. And if they can move loads for less and you can move them for more by not including that broker, well, then it's a win-win for everybody. So I would encourage you to be doing that. And if you don't want to do that, if sales isn't your thing, well, then maybe you ought to consider just leasing your truck on with a national carrier and run under their authority until such time as the market changes, if the market changes. If you want to do that and you own your own trailer, consider renting your trailer out to Amazon, because if you own your own 53-foot dry van whether it's food grade or not, if you just have a dry van that's in good condition, Amazon is interested in renting that from you. And, you know, they're responsible for it. They insure it, and, you know, you're the lost payee on it, or, you know, if you own anything, if you owe anything on it, well then, you know, it'll be you and your lender. But I would seriously consider doing that, because these bigger carriers are going to have contract freight, and it might work out to your advantage to run some of that contract loads. But that, you know, that's just my opinion. Everyone has their own. But I'm just trying to think of how best to maximize your revenue. So if you, let's say you lease your trailer over to Amazon, they're running it, and they're going to pay you so much a month for that. And you might even be able to put a hubometer on it and charge them so much a mile, or so much per load. I would either do a flat monthly rate, you know, $800 a month or something like that, or so much a mile for the use of the trailer. And that's going to be generating you some revenue. And then you're out running loads under another carrier's authority, pulling their trailer, and so your truck's generating you some revenue. This day and age, you might actually come out money ahead doing that. Food for thought. But anyway, I just wanted to share that discussion I had with Randy earlier with you, and see what you thought about that, and what do you think you would do. So let me know in the comments below, and you guys stay safe out there. I'll see you on the road. Bye.